Hello there, and welcome once again to The Verdict. Mick Cornett with Kent Meyers. We're here every week, meeting interesting people and dealing with topical issues. And well, this guy's got to have some good days in the days ahead.
Well, yes. Randy McDaniel is our guest, the state treasurer for the state of Oklahoma. Was elected in 2018 to a 4-year term, and we'll talk more about that when he comes on.
Yeah,
But
the treasurer is supposed to kind of count the money and keep track of the money. Not supposed to be responsible for, the good days and the bad days, but he always gets the blame, he or she, when times are bad, the people want to blame the treasurer for not having enough money for what they need.
Well, and I want to throw Randy a bone before he comes on. He has the best advertising. The best commercials of any state treasurer, and Scott Meacham is a partner of mine. I can say that, who is a former state treasurer. But his advertising is really slick. It's really good.
Is. Yeah. Randy McDaniel, state treasurer, today's guest in The Verdict. We'll be right back.
Right now, 6 feet can feel like a long ways away. But from 6 feet, we can still smile at each other. From our doorways and our stairways, from opposite sides of the street and opposite sides of the country. Through fear and frustrations, we can remind each other that we are still here for each other. Because we can still smile at each other. And we're not going anywhere.
Military service ran in my blood, starting from my father, which joined the Navy. On the Chickasaw side, my uncle, which served in the United States Army. I'm Benjamin Espinosa, Chief Petty Officer, United States Navy, and I'm Chickasaw. I went to the Secretary of Defense's staff at the Pentagon in Washington, D.C., which ultimately led to becoming a combat support technician for Naval Special Warfare, specifically SEAL Team 10. I think to be proud and to love your tribe, to love being Chickasaw, you also have to love being American. You also have to love everything that America stands for: equality, perseverance, professionalism, and power. I want my family to know that their father is a good person, but also feels that he has an obligation to the country and to love this nation. Anything worth having is worth dying for. The military and the country owes me nothing. I owe it everything.
See more stories about the Chickasaw people at profilesofanation.com.
We're back on The Verdict. Mick Cornett with Kent Meyers. Kent's going to introduce today's guest.
Well, as we talked about in the open, State Treasurer Randy McDaniel is our guest today, and I want to spend a little bit of time telling you some interesting facts about him. He did his undergraduate work at the University of Oklahoma, got his master's degree from Cambridge University. After school, he started in the banking profession and stayed there a while and became thereafter a successful financial advisor for a number of years. In the process, he served 6 terms in the House of Representatives, also as chairman of the Finance and Banking Committee of the state legislature. And one thing that I'm proud of is that, because I've shared something similar, is he served the Oklahoma National Guard and rose to the rank of captain. And he retired as a captain. So Randy, sure glad to have you. Thanks for coming back.
It's wonderful to be back. Thanks for having me.
Well, the new legislative session will be here before you know it. How much money are they going to have to spend, and is it a good number?
It's a good number. Things have been great. We broke $14 billion on gross receipts, which is different than the revenue picture that they use. They use another number that doesn't. Our number includes municipality sales tax receipts and a few other things with taxes, but the economy is coming back strong, and it's a good time to be in Oklahoma. And I'm very encouraged.
And so off the top of my head, oil and gas prices are up. That's got to be helpful.
Oh, absolutely. They bring in the gross production tax about $100 million a month, but they have a lot bigger impact. They fight a lot above their weight in that they impact sales tax and income tax. And so seeing oil going over $70 a barrel, gas at over $5, we're starting to see things pick up. Employment's really picking up in the industry, and so things are better.
And federal money is coming into the state from all directions, it seems like.
Yes, no doubt about it that's a factor. We got our most recent tranche, $935 million. We're going to put that for some very long-term projects that have been out there that we've wanted to do, from broadband and rural community and other things. And so we have some opportunities to make some strategic investments that will impact Oklahoma for years to come.
Well, I guess with the oil and gas revenue up, that probably means the rigs are staying busy.
Yes, we're starting to see a pickup. We're not back to the high points of, the 50 and 60,000 employment numbers, but we're closing in on 30,000, which is a great recovery, and we're starting to see some more wells come online. And so the activity is picking up. Unemployment in the state is about 3.2%. So we're pretty much fully employed and looking good.
Well, I suppose all areas of the state, particularly western, well, I guess most of the areas of the state benefit from that directly.
Oh, absolutely. Every part of the state, from the smallest to the biggest cities, are impacted by it. And I heard Mick say before it came on that, we get the blame when things aren't good, so maybe I should try to take a little credit. But I have to say it really isn't. We manage the money that we receive, but we are very thankful to be fully employed in that regard.
But you also turn around and invest that money.
Yes.
And so what direction has that money been headed?
Well, with the bigger pools of money, obviously that helps the net result. Rates have been historically low, and it's a little bit of the story like oil and gas prices. While that's great for the state's revenue picture, obviously when you go to the pump, you're paying more. So most things do have trade-offs, and this happens to be one with the very benign rates. But we're working hard, and we have a three-prong approach. We start with liquidity, safety, and then maximizing returns for the citizens of the state. And so the first two are paramount in our core fund. And so we take what the market gives. We've been very strategic in it, and that's really helped because we haven't timed the market. And so that's allowed us to be locking in yields 3 or 4 years ago when a lot of people thought, well, maybe you should wait to see if they're going to go higher. And every time we've made that choice and to continue on a good cash flow basis, the net result has been good.
Well, Randy, let me ask you kind of a personal question. What prompted you originally to think, I think I'll run for state treasurer? I'd like to be the state treasurer.
Thank you for asking. I always wanted at least one chance to run statewide.
Yeah.
I grew up in a small rural community, Alva. I've lived in Purcell. I lived at Fort Sill when I was in the Army. Lived in Oklahoma City most of my adult life in Edmond. And so I thought this would be a wonderful situation if I was ever asked, and I'm very thankful for previous treasurers encouraging me and bankers across the state. And we had a wonderful campaign in 2018. Things have changed in my life. My kids are getting active in sports. 11 years in the National Guard, 16 years in elected service, 7 elections. And so now the timing feels right. So my decision not to run for re-election has no bearing on the fact that I'm so thankful and honored to have had a chance to serve.
You mentioned revenues are up in Oklahoma. Is it a similar story in other states in this part of the region?
Yes. Every state is benefiting from 3 or 4 key factors, one of which has been the business lending that have been, from local banks across the country in every state. That's made a huge impact with some support from the federal government. Obviously, the stimulus money, which goes under some different names, has been instrumental. And I think Oklahoma's done well with opening the economy a little bit sooner and been a little bit ready and prepared to be able to bounce back. And so it's been a partnership with a lot of different entities, but most states right now are in pretty good shape.
How did your office function during the height of the COVID? We're not out of it yet, of course, but during the last year of COVID.
That's one of the things I'm most proud of. We have a great team there. A lot of people have served the state for many, many years, and they stayed on with me, and we went through one of the more challenging times. It's been the first time that we've been gone from the Capitol for more than like a week in a few electrical situations. We have a core function that is fundamental to everything that happens, from healthcare, education, The trains have to run on time, and that starts with being able to get the money through the system and get it to them. And we delivered. Our core services were never interrupted, and I really have my team to thank, and I'm just so thankful.
What about different sections of the state? Are some parts of the state doing better than other parts from a revenue standpoint?
Well, yes, we still see movement towards the metropolitan areas, like that's been the trend for many years, and that still continues to be the case. As you know, Oklahoma City revenues are hitting records as well. There's been a lot of online buying, which has kind of changed the sales tax revenue picture. As we know, we've had that issue for years. With the Wayfair Act, that we've been able to at least collect what was deserved. And so as that happened, that's been a game changer to be able to at least get a fair amount that was owed.
The digital economy, how do you see that affecting rural Oklahoma versus urban Oklahoma going forward? Is that going to help rural Oklahoma, or is it going to hurt rural Oklahoma?
Well, I think the first issue is we need more access. If you look globally, that is a core factor from financial literacy and so many other things, from just having a bank account. And we're seeing great strides in that around the world, where people have gone from a low percentage, and just by having digital access, electronic access, now they'll open an account, and that starts the process of being a participant in the financial services industry. And a lot of times, as we all know, experience leads to doing better results. And I think that we need to make a strategic investment in rural Oklahoma right now. I think that's a key time as we have these monies coming in. If we can't do it now, when can we? And I think that could be a game changer and allow them to grow and be able to have access to the same services that people get in the larger cities.
Let me ask you about your efforts that I indicated to you. I think were quite effectively done. And we only have about a minute for this, so I'll hurry up. On the unclaimed property.
Oh, yes, we're very proud of that. And now that was an issue. We worked with the AG's office, and there were some disruptions, but that's, our core function is banking and accounting and investing the assets of the state. But they've been tremendous, and I don't mean to be braggy, but we did set the record for all time. We broke through $15 million in return unclaimed property, and so they continue to perform at a high level. And just briefly, we have performance pay, which means they have an incentive. They get paid to do a great job, and we're one of the very few states in the union to do that, and the results speak for themselves.
Randy McDaniel is the state treasurer, and today's guest on The Verdict. We'll be right back with more.
The Vet Hero office at the University of Central Oklahoma, it is a one-stop shop for veterans when they're trying to get their education.
I call it my encore job. I get to take care of veterans. We help them transition. I was that guy that transitioned after 24 years. And in the end, GI Bill is a benefit that those soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marine earned. It was the thing that made us the greatest country in the world coming out of World War II. And it will continue to do the same thing for this future generation of service members.
OU Law has a history and heritage that are unparalleled. At the University of Oklahoma College of Law, we empower our students to pursue the career of their dreams. We have the highest U.S. News ranking ever achieved by an Oklahoma law school. We are the first law school in the country to launch a college-wide digital initiative. And this year, our competition teams ranked number 2 in the nation. OU Law, generations of excellence, limitless possibilities.
Welcome back to the set of The Verdict. Our guest is State Treasurer Randy McDaniel. We were talking about unclaimed property when you left, and during the break we were joking about, if someone contacts you and says you have free money coming, there's always this, is this a scam? And do I really need to pick up the phone? Do I really need to call this number? I'm sure that repeats itself across the state.
Well, it almost seems too good to be true.
Yeah.
That's why advertising matters. It adds credibility and trust. And we've been so successful. The State Treasurer's Office took it over in 2000. At the time, they were averaging about $5 million a year. And I'm very proud of the great progress we've made, and it started before I got there, but we have continued to fulfill our mission to do that. But also we have a duty to ensure that there's no fraud and abuse. We've worked very hard. We work with the AG's office, and so there are times it does take time to make sure that the rightful owner is verified and that we can get a return.
Well, in general, what's the most common reason somebody has money coming?
The most common reasons are, a rent check or utility deposit that gets left behind. Now, on the big numbers are usually in 2 or 3 things, though, and that are royalty rights, our biggest money. Even though the volume is not as high, we get that's the biggest part of it. Next would be like life insurance, and then probably third, retirement accounts. Retirement accounts are growing quite a bit, so it's moving right up to the
So if the private sector trying to pay somebody and they can't find them, at some point they contact the state treasurer's office?
Yes,
Is that the way it works?
Yeah, there's statutes. Deposits at a utility company have a shorter time frame. They usually range from 1 to 5 years, but after that period, then they have an obligation to send them to us. Some of the most interesting cases have been on, like, say, bank deposit boxes. That's the one that's pretty high profile, even though on a number standpoint, it's not near as significant as some other things. We've had all kinds, from a Mickey Mantle baseball to a machete to old coins from World War I. I mean, so banks they have the same requirement that after so many years, if they can't find the owner, then they send them to us.
Now, back when I was in law school, there was a term called escheat, E-S-C-H-E-A-T, where unclaimed funds went to the state. It's cheated to the state. Is that still a concept?
Well, it is and it isn't. Technically, they don't sheet to the state, even though that's a term we still use. Because at some point, 10, 20, 50, 100 years, you have to make, like an insurance company, assumptions that are they ever going to be returned if they couldn't have happened in the last 25 years. So they do, ultimately, the state does get a benefit based on those assumptions. They don't technically, it's always the rightful owner if they can show verification and prove that it is theirs. But there is no doubt it has been a helping factor, especially through tough times. The Unclaimed Property Fund has been there to solve a lot of problems over the years.
The OK Stable account, what is that?
OK Stable is something we're very proud of, and I want to give a shout out to the ambassadors. They volunteer their time, and they've been great advocates. ABLE was passed at the federal level. We're in a consortium with 10 to 12 other states. They're all called stable accounts. In our case, it's OK Stable. And what that is it's helping people save for families that have a disability member in their family, and it is changing lives. The federal law was if you had over $2,000 saved, anything more than that, it could start impacting any other kind of benefits you have. So there was a great disincentive to ever want to save any money. This opens that door. And so people are starting to use it. The accounts are starting to build. And I'm proud to say that this year we passed a state income tax deduction equivalent to our college savings account deduction, because they're both under 529. It was the right thing to do, and it's going to make a difference.
Well, you read my mind. I wanted to ask you about the college savings account. That's a program that's administered by your office, is it not?
That also started in 2000, so we just went through our 20-year anniversary. $1.25 billion of assets. It's grown tremendously, and that's in the direct official plan. We also have Oklahoma Dream that's sold by financial advisors across the state, and it's well over $200 million. That success means something. We've been able to reduce our fees by a third during my time in office, and I'm very thankful for that, because that means more of their hard-earned money is going to pay for tuition, as we know is a big issue in the world. Student loan debt is now the second biggest consumer debt behind mortgages, which will always be number one. So it's bigger than credit card, it's bigger than auto loans, and so we need to address that problem, and this is one way to do it.
Well, about how many families, kids, whatever the measurement might be, are affected by the savings account on an annual basis?
Well, we've had 30,000 students spend about $750 million across the state in local universities and colleges. Again, we have $1.25 billion in the account right now, and that represents about 65,000 families or individual beneficiaries. Yes.
Wow, that's a big impact.
Oh, it is a big
In a small
impact.
state, that's a big impact.
We're very proud. It's been a great program. And the most important thing, it's not just the numbers. And, as the state treasurer, I get caught up in those, but it's each one represents a student that's going to have less student loan debt when they graduate.
That's a lot of success stories.
That's a lot of success stories. And one study has shown that's very powerful, and that is just the fact that a grandparent or a parent will do anything puts in their mind that they think that they are college bound. And if you looked at the rate of people going to college, how high the percentages of people that have an account versus not having an account, it is a game changer. So even if you can't find a whole college, the expenses that are there, get started, try your best, and you could lead to a dream in a student's mind that can change their life.
Well, and it's part of perhaps a bigger issue of financial literacy in this state.
Yes.
And how do you feel like we're doing overall on financial literacy compared to other parts of the country?
Well, I think we're doing well. It's a hard one to measure.
Yeah, I guess so.
Because you're making an investment early on that you hope that it's going to make an impact way down the road. When I drove on campus today, I remember over at Enterprise Square, I gave one of my first ones. I was working at a local bank. They asked me to go do a financial literacy presentation, and it was something I always remember. And so I will throw one little plug. I'm finishing a book on financial literacy. It should be done by the end of the year. It'll be free for all citizens of the state to download. It's The Power of Financial Education. And we are wrapping that up, and I've tried my best to make that a high priority. It was tough during COVID to have everyone go out and do the marketing we would like, because we still had our core services to do, and we had to be respectful for the situation we were. But it is a top priority for me, and we've tried to do as much outreach as we could.
Do we do enough in our schools?
Well, there's always more to be done, but there are a lot of private sector folks stepping up, and we're trying. And so let me just give a few shout outs to the people that are really making a difference. Bank of Oklahoma, Bank First, every major bank has a program that they're trying to do it. On campus here at Oklahoma Christian, they have Junior Achievement that has their stock market picking contest, and I attended that, and I mean, hundreds and hundreds of students are over in this area. And then you also have the Council of Economic Education. Those are just kind of some of the very high-profile people that are investing every day trying to do something to make things better.
Yeah, we're taping now at Oklahoma Christian University, have been for the last few months, and this university was kind of a leader in financial literacy, was it not?
Well, yes.
Insofar as programs are concerned?
From my perspective, in my life, they sure have been. From a penny saved is a penny earned over at Enterprise to the Memorial Church where they have Junior Achievement to things that they do on campus itself. So I know they've been very involved in trying, and it's just an issue of access to the information, and I think that the digital issue you brought up earlier is so significant. Because if they can get engaged in the financial markets, all it takes is starting an account, and then you learn about that, and it grows and grows.
I know at the state capitol there's been a lot of construction going on the last, really, I would say 2 years, but it's actually been longer than that. Give people an update on the improvements, and it's got to be a more inviting place to go to work now than it used to be.
Well, thank you. Yes, we had a historical
We've got about
moment.
1 minute left.
Okay, so we moved out for the first time for a year. I moved into a bank vault when that was all we could find. No windows. Through most of COVID, that's where we spent it. So we went back in July of last year. And
Didn't make you wear orange jumpsuits, I hope.
I hope not. No,
Okay.
Just a tie. No, no, we are very thankful that we could get back, and the rebuild has been remarkable, and we need it. It's the center of democracy. It is something we all want to be proud of. It is always one of the most visited locations in the state. It's worth the investment, and they have done a great job.
And the visitor experience is enhanced. So I'm saying that to invite people to go see their state capitol.
Go see the state capitol, and ask for one
Even
of
if
the
they're not marching about something or protesting.
Exactly.
Show up and enjoy the history. And knock on Randy's door. Tell him what a great job he's doing.
Thank you very much.
You bet. Kent and I'll have a final word when we get back.
Thanks, Randy. Good luck to you.
Thank you.
It used to be okay in teachers' lounges. It used to be okay in maternity wards. It was okay in sporting arenas, college campuses, and office spaces. But now that we understand the deadly dangers of secondhand smoke, that's not okay anymore. So why is it okay that thousands of employees are exposed to it every day at work? Bottom line, it's not okay. Let's protect hardworking Oklahomans. Join the fight at stopswithme.com.
All children deserve a life of hope and love, but sometimes they experience a life of pain, neglect, and abuse.
When that happens, each child deserves all the quality assistance and representation that can be offered in our legal system. For more information, call 23-CHILD.
Oklahoma Lawyers for Children, helping to bring hope and love back to the lives of abused children.
You will always be mom and dad to me.
I think for us, once we got started and we began to see the tremendous need just within our state, it really was just a calling for us. The blessings far outweigh any obstacles that we've faced.
You will always be mom and dad to me.
The Journal-Record is pleased to be a sponsor of The Verdict. The Journal-Record, since 1903, the best source of Oklahoma business news and legal information.
You know, a lot of people give back. Randy has sure been generous with his public service, hasn't he?
He has indeed, and we posted quotes all the way through his show at the breaks about leadership, because I think he really has leadership capabilities that have been available for all to see in his service as state treasurer.
Great role model, choosing not to run for a second term as state treasurer. So he'll be in office over a year, but is not running again. And he mentioned he has a book I don't think he's told many people about, but it'll be not available yet, but it's called The Power of Financial Education, and it'll be downloadable free of charge to citizens in Oklahoma. He's doing that to increase financial literacy. We have some website information. His office is ok.gov/treasurer. That's ok.gov/treasurer. And we have a website, theverdict.tv. Tell us about a guest you'd like to see or a subject you'd like to see Kent and I discuss more thoroughly. We'll see you next week right here on The Verdict.